Hello, my name is Karen, and today we are going to bead what I call this Qaspeq woman or girl earrings. It's very cute. I am beading with Delica beads just because I think that the Delica beads work best for this type of stitch pattern. Now you can do this with round beads also. I find that the Delica beads are more consistent in shape and size. So let's get started. We're going to start at the bottom of the dress. And I started out with 13 beads at the bottom of the dress. I'm working with pink beads today, which are not in my screen. So I'm going to start by picking up 2 pink Delica beads. Slide them toward the bottom of the string and thread your needle through that first bead and pull your string through. You have what looks like that. I'm going to sew through that second bead, pulling my string through. And now we'll pick up another bead, sew down through that last bead, and then up through the bead you just added. And we'll continue this all the way across until we have 13 beads. Now today I am beading with 6-pound FireLine, but you can bead with whatever thread you are comfortable beading with. I'm also using a size 11 needle. You can use a smaller needle for this if you choose, as these Delica beads are pretty small. A Qaspeq is a garment that the Alaskan people wear, men and women. The men usually wear a shorter garment and is designed for warmth while out hunting. They can be made for winter use or summer use, depending on what kind of fabric that you use. The new designs now are shirt length, shorter. The pattern that we are making today, beading, is the longer dress style, which I think is more traditional for women. I had a beautiful green Qaspeq when I was younger that I just loved, and it had pink flowers on it. And I just remember always wearing it and loving it. It's got a big pocket in the front that you could put stuff in or keep your hands warm in the wintertime. And a hood that you could put up to help keep the insects out of your hair. Let's count how many beads we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oops, I added too many beads. Well, let's just take these last two off. Oops. I'm going to have to take my thread off my needle, and this happens sometimes. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And the reason that I start with 13 on the bottom is because we're going to add these little black beads, or they can be brown beads, that symbolize the legs or feet of our little Qaspeq woman. And with 13 beads, you can center these in the middle of the girl with 5 beads on each side of the 4 beads in the middle. Okay, let me rethread my needle. And I'm going to go ahead and keep that last pink bead on the thread, but I'm also going to pick up another pink bead. So we just completed this first row. Now we're going to do the second row, which is a decrease row, and we're going to start with 2 beads this time. And to decrease, we're going to sew our thread through the second string on the top of the beads. Pull that, and then you're going to thread your needle through that first bead, pull. Thread your needle through the second, down through the second bead, and then back up through that first bead. And pull it nice and tight. And we have our first 2 beads on that second row. So now we're going to continue. Pick up another bead and we're going to sew through the string on the top of the beads. So back up through the bead you just added. And then continue on. In the same way, adding 1 bead at a time. Sewing your needle through that top thread on the top of the beads, and then up through the bead you just added. I am not the designer of this pattern. I don't know who is. I bought a pair of earrings one time, a long time ago. I don't even remember where I bought them. And I just love the little pattern. I love the earrings. And when I got into beading, I thought, you know what? I want to make some of those earrings. So I got the earrings out and tried to follow the pattern. The earrings I bought were made with round beads. Which is okay, except I found that I like beading with these Delica beads for this pattern best. Okay, we're almost at the end of this second row. This is not a difficult pattern, it's just takes time. It's mostly repetitive. Okay, there's our second row done. Now, this string is going to get in the way, so I'm going to trim it off. And we're going to start our third row. Our third row is going to be where I start my pattern, which will basically be a pink bead, a gold bead, a pink bead, a gold bead instead of the blue and yellow. It's going to be a decrease row again. So we're going to pick up a pink bead and a gold bead. And sew through that second string on the top. You're going to sew up through that gold bead. Down through the pink bead. And back up through the gold bead. And pull your string thread very tight. Now continue with a pink bead. And it's the same stitch pattern as the previous rows. You're just going to alternate. Oops. Sometimes that happens too. I fed my needle back through the string instead of up through the bead. You want to make sure you get your needle through the bead and not the string. Gold bead. Pink bead. Gold bead. Now you can do whatever kind of pattern you want, or if you don't want a pattern, you can use, just make a solid dress. A lot of the dresses now, Qaspeq dresses, are made with cotton floral patterns or even geometric patterns. So you can make these little Qaspeq girls in whatever color you want. I've made them in green for my mom, who likes green. Made them in cobalt blue for my sister, who likes cobalt blue. I made a black and blue one for myself to wear to work. And I've made a lighter pink one for myself, because pink is my favorite color. So you could just make them in any color you like to match your outfits. Or if you're beading for a friend or a birthday gift or whatever, you can bead them in your friend's favorite color. They're just a very cute pattern. And our last bead will be a pink bead for this row. Okay, turn your work, and now we're going to start on the next row. We're going to start with a pink bead again and a gold bead. Sew through that second thread on the top of the beads. Up through the gold bead, down through the pink bead, and up through the gold bead again. And a pink bead, gold bead. Now, I've only been beading for a couple years, but I find that I enjoy it and that it's relaxing. My next video will probably be on beading covers for glass floats, which is also something I really enjoy doing, and how I got into beading. I had some glass floats that I decided I should bead a cover for. I had taken a class one time on how to do the net pattern for a glass float. So that is how I started out. My glass floats is with the net pattern, and then have it evolved into using different types of patterns and different types of beads. So we'll do some of those. If you like to bead, if you don't have any glass floats, you can use ornaments, Christmas ornaments. Okay. There's our fourth row done. We're just going to continue until we have only 6 beads across the top. And I'm going to continue with the pink bead and then a gold bead. Still decreasing, so you're still threading through that second thread at the top of the needle. I hope I'm in the camera here. I have this, I guess it's foam of some type, beading mat that I like to use for beading. Keeps your beads from rolling all over the place. It makes it easy to pick up your beads off the mat. Okay, so that's another row done. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 beads on the top, and we're working our way down to 6 beads. Now this next row, I think I want my pattern to be like a chevron. So instead of continuing at an angle, they're going to go the other direction. So I'm going to start with a gold bead this time, and then a pink bead. Still a decrease pattern, so we're still feeding our needle through that second thread on the top of the beads. Up through the pink bead this time. Down through the gold. And back up through the pink. Okay, and see how now that gold pattern is going to go back that direction. So, picking up a gold bead. Now, if you're beading along, you can pause the video if you need to. I do that quite a lot when I'm following a tutorial, whether it be beading or painting or card making, which are some of the things, other hobbies that I enjoy doing. Okay, so that's another finished row. Turn your work and just continue the same. We are still doing a decrease. So we want to start with a pink bead, going the other direction. I think. Let me see if I did that right. Yes. I like this gold and dark pink together. It looks very pretty, and I think the gold will really stand out and catch the light and sparkle. Now, I do live in Alaska. I live in Bush, Alaska, which means that there is no road system to where we live. The only way to get here is to fly or to come by water, by boat, in the summer. Can't get here by boat in the winter because of the ice in the bay. I live in a small place called Naknek. on the Bristol Bay, which is a very popular place to come to fish for commercially for sockeye salmon. And then in king salmon, people fly in to king salmon to go to Katmai National Park to view the bears. Not something I want to do. I see enough bears around here. Don't really want to go that close and be that close to the bears. Okay, so for this row, we're going to start with the gold bead and then the pink bead. Because I live in Bush, Alaska, there are no beading stores here. We have 2 grocery stores, one in Natnik and one in King Salmon. There's a 15-mile road between Natnik and King Salmon. So I do my bead shopping when I fly to Anchorage. And I buy beads from the Alaska Bead Company and the Bead Shack. I also buy beads online, mostly from artbeads.com and Eureka Beads. It's nice to go into a bead store though and actually look at the beads and handle them, and because it's kind of hard to shop for beads online especially when you're new to beading and you're like, what's a size 11? What's a 15? The bigger the number, the smaller the bead. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're down to 6 beads on the top, so that completes the bottom part of our Qaspeq. So now we're going to start increasing and work the top part of the Qaspeq. The first row will be solid pink. So we're going to pick up 2 pink beads. This time, because it's an increase row, we're going to sew into the first thread on top of the beads. Pull that string taut, so up through the first bead, down through the second bead, and back up through that first bead. And pull your thread tight. And continue the same pattern, sewing 1 bead through at a time. Okay, so we're at the end of the row. Because it's an increase row, we are going to add another bead, and this time you will sew through that same top thread that you sewed through on the last bead that you added. Pull your little bead over that way, sew up through the bead just like you did on all the other beads. And pull it Okay. So that's our first increase row. Now we're going to do a second increase row, and this time we are going to add a bead right here. These are the lines for the pocket, because we have a big pocket in the front of the Qaspeq. And these Qaspeqs are usually lined with very nice trim work, and they can get all very fancy as you want them to be, or as plain as you want them to be. So for this row, we're going to do an increase. We're going to do a pink bead and then a gold bead. So here's our pink bead and then a gold bead. So through that last loop on the top of the beads for an increase row, pull down on the thread, up through that gold bead, down through the pink bead, and back up through the gold bead. And now we're going to add 4 pink beads between these until we get to the next gold bead. How many people like the sound of a ticking clock in a quiet house? I guess it's something from childhood. When the house was quiet in the summer, you can hear the clock ticking in the kitchen. I loved it. I don't know if you can hear my wall clock up there ticking, but okay, now for a gold bead for the other side of the pocket. And then a pink bead for the end of the row. And you're going to sew under that last thread that you just sewed under. And we've completed our first pocket row. Now the second pocket row will also be an increase row. And the pocket is slanting inward. So we're going to do 2 pink beads before we add our gold bead for the pocket. So another increase row, 2 pink beads. So through that last top thread on the top of the bead for an increase. Okay, and now for the other pocket, continuing the pocket, we'll add a gold bead here. And this time, we'll add 3 pink beads between the gold beads. So there's 3 pink, pick up a gold, add your gold bead, think these are going to be very pretty earrings, but I'm kind of partial to pink, any shade of pink. Okay, now our third pocket row is going to be a decrease row. And we're going to start with 2 pink beads, a gold bead, 2 pink beads, a gold bead, and then 2 pink beads. So pick up our 2 pink beads, and it's a decrease row, so we're going to thread it through that second thread on the top of the beads. And then our last gold bead. Pink bead, we want 2 pink beads. And then a gold bead. And then 2 pink beads. You can definitely make one of these in an evening, or even a pair in the evening, or a pair in a day. Okay, so that concludes the pocket portion of the Qaspeq. So now we're going to do the last row above the pockets, which will be all pink, and also a decrease row. So we'll pick up 2 pinks, another decrease row, so we'll sew through that second thread on the top of the beads. Another pink. And the last pink. Okay. So now we're going to do this row, which is going to be one pink, and then you could do silver or white or whatever color you want. This is going to be the ruff around the hood. Of course, if you don't want a ruff, you could just make it pink, like the hood is pink. Or if you want it to be the girl's hair, you can just do it all a hair color. So I'm going to do silver around for the ruff around the hood for mine. And this is another decrease row. So I'm going to pick up a pink and a silver. This will be the last pink on that side of the dress. And another silver bead. And then the last pink bead. Okay, so that concludes the Kuspuk part of the earrings. Now we're going to start on the face and the ruff around the face. So for the face, I'm using this fleshy colored beads. They're butter rum, light butter rum, but you could use any color you want. So we're going to use, this is going to be an increase row. So we're going to pick up a silver for the ruff and then my flesh color bead to start the face. And it's an increase, so we're going to thread through that first top thread on the top of the beads. And then we're going to pick up another flesh color bead. And now we're going to add the mouth. And you can do the mouth in any color of bead you want. I'm using a pink bead, but not the same color of pink that I used for the dress. You can use a light pink, you could use a red. You can use whatever color you want. I'm using this pink, which is a different color of pink. It is a matte bead instead of a like shiny bead. So that's the mouth, and now two more flesh beads. And then a silver bead for the ruff. And again, this is a increase, so you're going to sew through that last thread you just sewed through with the last bead. Okay. So we're going to do another increase. pick up a silver bead and a flesh bead. And this row is going to be the flesh color all the way across. Until you get to the silver bead for the ruff. One more flesh. And then our silver. Okay, so that completed this row. So our next row is going to be a decrease row, and it will be the row where we add the eyes. And so we're going to pick up a silver bead and a flesh bead. It's a decrease row, so thread through that second thread on the top of the beads. So one flesh bead, and then you're going to add an eye color. And I'm using this brown for the eyes. You can use whatever color you want. And then a flesh color. And then the other brown for the eye. It's starting to look like a face. And then a flesh color. And a silver bead. Okay, so that completes the eye row. So now we're going to do another decrease row with flesh color all the way across the top between the ruff. So we're going to pick up a silver bead and a flesh bead. And it's another decrease, so through that second thread. Another flesh. We're getting to the end of this. more flesh. And silver bead for the ruff. Okay. So now we're going to move on. This row, you can do a rough color, you can do a flesh color. This is supposed to be like the hairline, the bangs. So you can put that in or you can leave it out. Here's a pair, some earrings that I made where I didn't put the hair color in, I just put the flesh color in. I think I like that better. Or you could just start adding the ruff, which maybe we'll try in this one and see how it turns out. So let's go with silver for the ruff all the way across. And it's still a decrease row. We'll see how that looks. I think that looks all right. So now we're going to turn it and do one more row of silver for the ruff. So 2 beads, it's a decrease row. And that finishes off the top of the hood. You could add one more row if you wanted and make it 3 on the top. Well, it is already 3 on the top. But I'm going to finish it off there and make my loop. So I'm going to pick up 4 silver beads and just sew down through that last bead. And just thread up through the beads in that last row. Down, back up. And you're going to sew back through those beads to reinforce it, because your earring hook will be hanging through that thread. So there she is. Now we're going to work our thread down to the bottom so that we can add the little boots or legs, whatever you want to call them, to the bottom of the girl. When you thread this down, you want to go at a diagonal, not just go straight down, because then your thread will show. And this might be easier to do with a smaller bead needle, but I'll just continue with needle that I have. This is where your needle can tend to get bent a little bit, trying to feed it back through these small beads. If you wanted to, you could cut your thread and just rethread it at the bottom, but I have enough thread here to just feed it through. Just takes a little time. Now, as you get near the bottom, you want your thread to come out through the 5th bead on the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you want it to come out through that bead. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now we're ready to add the black beads for the boots or the legs, whatever you want them to be. I guess if you wanted them to be legs, you could make them the flesh color. So I'm going to pick up 2 black beads and thread the needle through the bead next to the bead you came out of. Go back up through that bead and down through the first bead, back up through. Okay, I might have to edit this part. I don't like the way that looks. It's not lying flat. So what I'm going to do is pick up 2 more beads so that I have 4 beads, and then I'm going to thread it through that first bead. So up through the first 2 beads, pull that tight, and back down through the second 2 beads and the bead below it just to reinforce it. Back up through that next bead, the next pink bead. What did I do here? have a thread throwing. Goodness. My needle's getting quite bent. What you can do is take your pliers and just kind of straighten your needle up a bit. Don't put too much pressure on it. Okay, so what I did was I need to go up through that pink bead as well. Go back down through the black bead. Pick up 2 more black beads. Go through those black beads. And up through the 2 beads you just added. And then the next 2 black beads. And then all the way down through the pink bead below it. Then I'm just going to work my way back up through the pink bead and the black beads. Down through the black bead, pink bead, and back up through those first 2 beads. Okay, let's thread this down through that bead. Just going to work my way over, not through the black beads, but just through the pink bead if I can. It just keeps wanting to go through the black beads. I don't want to go through the black beads. Okay, well, that's not what I wanted. Come on. I'm just gonna make a slip knot between those 2 beads. And then feed my bead back down, needle back down through that bead. I'm just threading my needle through the beads just to secure the beads, the thread. If you want to, you can do another slip knot somewhere just to secure your beading. And then when you're comfortable with your that you've threaded enough thread through to secure your work, you can just cut your string. And go ahead and cut this string. And there we have it. We have a pink Qaspeq woman earring. And now all we have to do is attach an earring hook. I'm going to use gold. So on the earring hook, on the top part, on this side, the hook, you can push it to the left. You want to push your hook sideways, not out. That's what I'm told. So just put your little hoop that you made there, feed your earring through there, and then slide it back into place. Give it a little pinch. And there's your Qaspeq woman earring. Like I said, you can do whatever kind of pattern you want here, or you can make it solid. These make great gifts. They're fun to wear. There, I hope that you've enjoyed that beading tutorial on how to bead a Qaspeq woman earring. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to subscribe and share, that'd be awesome. My next video will probably be on beading a glass float. And I'll give you a sneak peek of what a glass float, beaded glass float, looks like. We probably won't do this particular pattern the first time, but this is a beaded glass float. And it's hard to get all of this in the camera. But this is what a beaded glass float is, and that will be my next project, although probably with a different pattern. They're absolutely beautiful. So until next time, enjoy beading, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye.